Hey everyone, welcome to 21st Century Saints. Happy New Year. This is our first podcast of the year. We have missed you, but we say that all the time because we've got a lot more sporadic recently with how often we've been able to podcast. Hopefully, tonight that will be resolved. We've been working so hard in the background. I'm going to trust that if my sound is weird or whatever is a bit off, the wonderful audience will let us know. We're trying some new things here tonight, so you can keep us posted. Okay, tonight is launch night. First of all, before we launch, and we're going to tell you all about this really exciting project. Let me introduce you to my show business wife, my podcasting partner, the love of my life, Sarah Delaney. Do you want to say hey?
Hey everyone, it's really good to be here. We've been away for quite a long time because we've been dealing with 1,000,001 different issues, so many different things going on, but we're back. We're going to be doing something much more regular that I think you're going to be excited about, you're going to enjoy, and it's good to start the new year off with the launch of something that we're really excited about, and we hope to get you excited about this as well tonight.
And we've been sitting on this for a long time. Okay, so my picture's hazy for letting me know, Mary Carey. It is possibly crap internet, so I'm not sure if there's much I can do about that one. But as long as you can hear me, this is the main thing. Maybe if it's hazy, maybe it's just that I don't know. You know the Dynasty style glow from the face. Maybe it's just sheer radiance. I don't know what to tell you, but that part we might struggle with. Anyway, let's get to business. Yeah, we have really exciting things coming up. As a sneak peek, next week we've got Laurie Lee Hall, the legend, the queen of Mormonism. We've been so excited to we've been so excited to talk with her for such a really long time. So yeah, she's on this next week. So if you get a chance to grab a copy of her new book, which we've been hearing great things about, Dictates of Conscience, then go ahead, go read it, because we'd love to hear what you think. If you have any questions for her, you can drop them in the chat. So we're excited to have her with us. Now, shall we jump straight in, Sarah? Is there anything else you need to say?
No,
there is one thing. Okay, we also have to seriously, hugely thank our donors. We are going to ask you for more money later on, by the way, but it's for a really good reason. But so we've had some pretty phenomenal donations when we have just mentioned this project. So we're going to tell you what we're doing with your money. You'll remember a couple of years ago, actually 2 years ago this month, to be honest, this week, we had lots and lots of letters going in the mail. And we sent information to every bishop in the United Kingdom. Not just because we felt like it, not just because we felt they were a bit lonely, but because there was important information that we believed that they didn't have access to. So we sent a letter which contained information about safeguarding and what their roles and responsibilities were. Within that information, we directed them to look at statutory, the government website, which would break down that information. We also directed them to organisations which would be able to advise. So that was 2 years ago. We've been working on this one pretty much ever since then. We launched a survey last year, and the results of that survey we've used for this project. So, Sarah, have you got your glossy, wonderful?
This is it. This is what we have been working on.
Sexy book. We've been working on this booklet, and I have to say, when this came through the post, when we got the first print run delivery of it, I was feeling extremely emotional. This summarises all of the work that we have been doing. Now, we want to shout out to thank all of the people who were involved in in doing things like spell check and supporting us. All of our unpaid interns, you know who you are. So we want to thank you all for doing that. But we need to tell you why we're doing this, what it's for, who it's for, who's going to be getting a copy of this book. It's already been sent out as a pre-release version to a few of you, particularly some of the victims / survivors that we've been working with. So let's just start. Sarah, do you want to maybe take us through? We've got our gorgeous logo on the front. Do you want to talk a little bit about what people are getting in this book? Because we need to talk about what the content is. Then we'll tell you who it's for.
Yeah. To summarise the content of this book, what you're actually going to get in here is you've got a lovely little bit about Jane and myself, because we love to make it all about us. We like a bit of attention. You've also got some information about the survey that we undertook. Now, the survey that we undertook was really good. It was because we wanted to understand victims' voices. We'll talk about that later. We've also got some statements and comments that victims actually made and shared with us that we've reproduced with their permission. We've got areas of concern. What are we worried about with the church and safeguarding? What led us to start this work in the first place? And what areas are we still concerned? So we've got information on that. We've got recommendations. That's really important, hugely important. We've got the recommendations that we make for the church in order for them to continue their safeguarding journey. And then we've got some thanks for various people on the back. So lots of information. It's a booklet that's full of it punches above its weight, I think, for the information, for the size of the booklet. Lots of really good stuff in there that we've put together for a very good reason. We've put it together because we need to be sharing where the church needs to go next, how the church have got to where they're at, what's going on at the moment, and where the church needs to move to. And we've put it all together in a booklet that we're hoping you are all going to want to share and read. And we're going to talk about sharing and reading it in a bit.
Now, my mind immediately goes to, well, obviously this is for stake presidents and bishops and people like that. But I think when you read this, you'll be able to see that actually the audience for the book, we assume that you actually don't have any experience of the whole LDS or Mormonism world at all. This book is really designed as a tool. So here's the situation. If you want your stake president or your bishop to get a physical copy of this, let us know. And we will let that bishop know, that stake president know, that we have a member of their stake or ward who has asked them. We'll keep it anonymous unless you want us to tell them, and we'll get it in the post to them. Now, printing them costs a lot of money, so we are asking for donations for that. But if you want your bishop to get a copy of this, now, people, you were trained in placing a Book of Mormon wherever you wanted to place it, right? Do you remember that? You remember your training? You're going to use that training now. We can send PDFs, and we have been sending PDF copies of this book. So it's available for you, especially those of you who are in the US and want to send that out. But in the UK, we have physical copies of this booklet. And as you know, a physical copy is much more powerful than just clicking on an email, which may or may not be read. It makes bishops and stake presidents nervous, primary presidents, whoever you think in the church needs to see this, your safeguarding specialist. It might make them a bit nervous to open a PDF talking about church stuff. Placing a book is much more powerful. Share your testimony in it. Talk about why safeguarding is important to you. There's even space for you to scroll something in. But what we want is for you to thoughtfully get it to the person you need. So we're not sending it to everyone. We're asking you, let us know who needs it. Or if you want to hand it to your bishop or stake president or whoever it may be, let us know and we'll get it to you, because it's much better if you give it.
It is, and a fantastic opportunity to share this with the stake president or the bishop and talk through the key recommendations with them, talk through what recommendations are made for the church to move forward in a safeguarding journey, and how would those benefit and bless the lives of every active member of this church? How would they make church a safe and nurturing place for our children and our youth and our vulnerable adults? So it's really good stuff. And just we'll give more information on this, possibly at a later date on a podcast. But Jane and I have been asked to present this at a conference, which one of the charities that we work with has asked us to present this booklet. They really like it. They're adding it to their resources on their charity database. They've asked us to share this, which we will be doing, and we will let you all know about that nearer the time.
Just a big shout out also in the chat. Thanks to all the regular chatters who we love to see you. It's great to have you here. And also a special shout out to our buddy BB, Beyond Belief, is in the chat. Check out his work. He's the newest UK podcaster on the block. So we mentioned your bishop, your stake president. If you want a physical copy to go to one of them, we're asking if you could consider sending a donation. It will allow us to print them. These are a lot more sort of unwieldy. They're a lot more expensive to print than the letters that we did. So we're asking people to be accountable for that. But here's the kicker. It's not really for your stake president or your bishop. It's handy if they've got it. It would be really good if you had that conversation. We would love them to have it, absolutely. But who is this really for? Sarah, do you want to talk about it? Who do you want this book?
We need to be having discussions, and we're in consultation discussions and working with a major charity around this as well at the moment. There needs to be much more government oversight around what is happening in safeguarding in faith communities. At the moment, there's no government statutory framework or oversight of what faith communities do regarding safeguarding. So it can be the Wild West out there, or it can be absolutely fantastic. It depends what a church wants to do or faith community decide is important. We want people to be talking to members of parliament, to decision makers, to anybody they know who's working in the safeguarding field, having those conversations with those key decision makers to say, hey, listen, what do you think about regulating churches to make sure that they become safe places and that they follow government guidance and government guidelines? So that's one thing that we're going to be asking people to do. Make an appointment.
Okay, I think we slightly lost Sarah's audio there, so I'm just going to jump in, and when she gets back, she can chat with us. Yeah, we've just lost her. She'll be back in a moment. So here's the details. If you want a PDF copy, we will send it to you absolutely free of charge. We've got Sarah back. So if you want a PDF copy, we will send it to you free of charge. What we would like you to do, though, if you can afford to make a donation, sponsor a bishop, sponsor a politician, then please do. If you send it to us, we will make sure it gets to where it needs to go. But as Sarah's just pointing out, we need this to get I'm getting really bouncy because we've been sitting on this for so long. I'm so excited about it. We need this to get into the hands of decision makers. Now, Sarah's pointed out politicians. Sarah's pointed out anyone who's working in safeguarding in this area. Let me tell you a little, very, very quick backstory. Did you know that the reason why the whole thing about sending out those letters to bishops came about in the first place? And it's something I've avoided talking about because, to be honest, I don't want to be a pain in the LDS Church's ass. I really don't. I know that they can do a great job with safeguarding if they put their mind to it, and I think they just need that motivation. What we haven't really talked a lot about is this one thing. Sarah contacted, it's around about, 2.5 years ago, Sarah contacted her local politician to talk about safeguarding. And when Sarah provided that information to her local politician was horrified and sent a letter to a local leader to ask for more information. Now, we have here an ordinary getting up for work in the morning bishop who opens up a letter from a politician and wants to know, hey, what are you doing about safeguarding, mate? And the bishop is immediately thinking, this is way above my pay grade. Okay, I have to get this to someone. Now, my understanding, and we'll obviously individuals are involved in this story. My understanding is that bishop was told not to engage any further. The politician will absolutely follow stuff up, but they can only do it if a member of their constituency, if someone that they represent asks them to look into a matter, they can follow up. Now, let me tell you, the freak out that leaders have when politicians start getting involved in what the church is doing is huge. Do not underestimate it. Letters to bishops, it freaks out a bishop. It asks them questions. What you really need to do is contact those decision makers, and this is going to be your tool for doing that. Sarah,
it really is. When I spoke to my member of parliament, I said, you have a congregation within your constituency. This is roughly the number of people on their books, but this is the number of people that regularly attend there. This church does not adhere to any of the statutory guidance or recommendations around safeguarding. This is what is not happening, that should be happening. My member of parliament was extremely concerned. She wrote to the safeguarding minister for the government and said, can you please tell me what is happening around safeguarding with faith communities, because I'm really alarmed that faith communities don't seem to be following any guidance. As Jane said, she wrote to the local bishop. I felt sorry for the guy, in all honesty. He's a fantastic man.
I know,
Felt sorry for him because he got the brunt of this MP's letter, which he sent to the stake president. And the stake president said he didn't know what to do with it, so he sent it to the church lawyers. The church lawyers responded to the member of parliament. I ended up having to apologise to the member of parliament for the church's response, because she was really cross about it, because it literally was a 2-line sentence that said, thank you for your letter. The responsibilities of the bishops of our church does not extend to communicating to members of parliament. End of letter. Right. And she sort of came back to me.
Why is that significant?
It's really alarming, isn't it, that the church seemed to think they don't need to talk to our members of parliament. It was, and the thing is, they missed an opportunity. They missed a fabulous opportunity. Why not invite that member of parliament in, give them a tour of the chapel, talk about the work the church does, talk about what the church has to offer the local community. They could have spun that on its head as an amazing opportunity.
Right, that's the second thing.
So that's the second thing. And the third thing is exposed completely to a member of parliament who was one of the junior safeguarding ministers in government as well, exposed to her completely that there's a church that are taking no notice of government guidance and it needs to be on the agenda. So she started asking questions to say, why are we not looking at what churches are doing?
Now, let me just jump in a second. And I love that you guys can tell that we are so buzzing about this. Sarah is pounding the pulpit. We can hear it. Sarah, keep going. Keep going. You're passionate. But that letter was in the information that bishop received was in complete contradiction to testimony that was provided to the Independent Inquiry for Child Sexual Abuse. Now, you're going to hear more about that. The Brit Vengers gang, we're going to be talking about that. There's some more stuff that's coming up about that legislation-wise.
We're doing a panel, Brit Venger panel, in the next couple of weeks about that.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. But the information that was provided, the testimony from the church lawyer to that inquiry made explicitly clear that the person who's responsible to answer those questions and to oversee safeguarding in the local ward is that bishop. Yeah. Now, the information then the bishop is receiving from the church is, no, this is above your pay grades. No, you don't answer any of these questions. Sarah, genius background that if you want to read more about her background, we give you her CV here in our booklet. She doesn't get this from nowhere. We check her own homework. Sarah was able to sort of point out the legislation that actually the church's own policies are telling you who's responsible for safeguarding. And if this one bishop doesn't know, then how many other bishops and stake presidents above them don't know what they're doing? So we need to get this information to them. We try contacting the people in Europe who legally are responsible for every case of safeguarding that comes across the church's desk. They have never replied to us. But what we could do is we could contact the bishops. And so that's how that came about. So this, it can go to your bishop, but actually they've been told what they need to do. Sarah.
The bishops do need to hear these recommendations. As we need bishops and stake presidents to be aware of these recommendations and to be asked if they will discuss these with the area presidency in their one-to-one interviews to say, what are you doing about these?
Absolutely. So what we want you to do is get it to the people that you believe it needs to go to. So those people, for me in my area, I have a meeting with my local member of the Scottish Parliament this Monday. He's already waiting for this. We've already had a discussion about it. He's waiting for some additional information. And we're going to take you through some of the stuff that I'll be talking through with him. This has been designed by experts. It's being shared. It's being in the process of being shared by experts in the field. And we are really proud of this.
Can I just say, Jane, you did actually...
Yes, Sarah.
I was just going to say, we did actually send a copy of this to the church lawyers before Christmas, so they have had an opportunity to preview and have a copy of it. We just said shut up.
Well, now we're going to have that conversation, right? Let's do that conversation right now.
We don't
Sarah.
have to.
Well, audience, let me hear your audience. Do you want to know what the lawyers said? We never ever share what the lawyers said, and we won't do it now except for a little bit.
Absolutely,
because it's important.
Because we genuinely we value our relationship with the church lawyers. So because we need to talk to them about too many things, and we're not going to ever do anything that breaches confidentiality or jeopardizes that. We would never do that. We sent them a copy of this. We said, produce this booklet. If you've got any comments that you want to make on it, we're really happy to hear them, happy to have any feedback on it. They did email back to say that they're reviewing it. They've reviewed it in some depth. They will be discussing it and having some discussions about the content of it and the recommendations that we're making. And they made a comment about our survey.
They asked a question.
They asked a question about the survey. Do we want to do it? Okay. They asked a question about the survey. They just said, can you please explain your methodology for the survey? Now, I think what we need to be really clear about here is we are two women that don't have phenomenal resources at our fingertips. We were not setting out to develop some highfalutin, empirical, evidence-based survey that would yield reliable and valid statistical data. We set out to do exactly what we say in this booklet, which is to listen to the voices of victims, to listen to what victims were telling us about their experiences, the impact of abuse, the response from the church, and how that had impacted on their lives. We wanted to understand that, and we wanted to understand what victims said, so that we could use their experiences to better represent their needs when we spoke with leaders of the church, to say, this is what victims need, this is where they've been let down, this is what they need, and this is what you could have done better and what you could continue to do better in the future. So we wanted to just talk to a self-selected group of people that chose to respond to a survey that was internet-based, that would share their views. That's what we set out to do. That's what we did. I think there would be some merit. It would have limited potential in the fact that this could only reach members with names on the church records, but the church has an entire research department at its fingertips. The church could, if they were so inclined and if they wanted to, the church could launch a huge study and survey and research project into the extent, the nature and the impact of abuse within the church globally. They could use their research department, their marketing department. They could use the resources that they have, which are significantly more than the resources that Jane and I have. They could use those resources to pull together a research project that would be statistically valid, it would be reliable, it would have valid data, it could be have controls in it. They could do the whole camboozle job they could do. And we would actually suggest to the church that you might like to consider that. You might like to consider setting up a robust survey and study of the experience of victims and abuse within this church, so that you can actually start to better understand the global picture and how you can respond as a church. So we would leave that to the church. Is something we would suggest you might like to think about doing.
So Sarah is being way more gracious about it than I feel like being. This is caffeinated, Jane. So yeah, no, we challenge you to do it. Do it. The world actually, you would benefit the church if you would launch your own inquiry into abuse in the church. Now, we do have some on methodology. There are another couple of quick points that it's important that we make here. So first of all, we launched the survey. Now, every time we spoke about that survey, we talked about how we were going about it. The real question, I suspect, now, first of all, asking us about the methodology, it's a great question. We're not offended by the question at all. It's a really, really good one. Yes. Yeah, we want to take it seriously, and we want to make sure there's a statement that we've made about the methodology. That said, we've talked about our methodology many, many times without using the word methodology. Now, what I think the church really would like to know about the methodology is, are you just asking people who've left the church? Are you just, how many of these people are church members? Are their answers skewed by the fact that they've left the church? So here's the answer to that. We know, because of some of the comments and information that was shared in the survey, some of those responses were by active members of the church. However, most importantly, we didn't ask, because it is irrelevant whether the person responding to that survey for our purposes was a member of the church or not. In the same way as we don't need to know if Sarah's attending church right now for her comments to be valid. We asked the question, have you experienced abuse in the context of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Have you witnessed abuse? Did you feel that your bishop knew what to do? And so, very simple questions. And so we didn't ask you to qualify that by telling us. We considered, do we want to know this piece of information? And we felt that it would be not useful for our purposes. So we want to make that really clear. And yeah, church, ask those questions. Yep. And not just of your own members. Any robust church looking at robust safeguarding measures just now is looking at this, is looking at how to deal with these uncomfortable truths that you're going to hear. Another word on methodology, the quotes that we use in the booklet. So we're talking about methodology because we refer to our survey. We talk about some of the statistical information that we found out from our survey. That, yeah, most people felt that their bishop did not know what to do. Some of the quotes that we have from victims, and we've already shared them. For example, someone we were speaking to a matter of right before Christmas shared that she told us, when I shared my story, when I felt heard, I felt clean. The method for that is we had a conversation with a victim and a survivor, and we asked permission to record that chunk of statement, because it was powerful and it's beautiful. And we thank you for sharing that with us and allowing us to share it with our audience. So that's a word on methodology. Sarah, next, what are we up to next?
I think what we're up to next is, let's talk about some other things that we've covered in this booklet. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about
the areas of concern. Let's talk about what we covered here. We pointed out 7 areas of concern. And we spoke about the areas of concern. We spoke about the cultural context within the church, and how the church culture sends messages around not criticising leaders, about innate faith and inspiration, and not being professionally trained. We spoke about barriers to reporting as concern. Some of the barriers in reporting about the language of people in the church? Do they know how to talk about abuse? Do they know who to report it to? Do they know what to do with this? Do the police have enough understanding about the church as an organisation to be able to interview victims appropriately and to be able to understand a victim's experience and to be able to understand the language and the jargon and the information about the church? Because that's really important. If investigating officers don't understand the terminology and the culture of an organisation, it's much harder for them to understand a victim's experience. So that's a barrier to people reporting and talking about abuse. We talked about the fact that the DBS system the church have now introduced is fabulous, and we are so grateful they've done that in the UK. However, it is still limited because they are still not doing DBS checks on people working with vulnerable adults, like our Relief Society presidencies and Elder Quorum presidencies. They're working with vulnerable adults increasingly more and more. Particularly, we've got an ageing population in our church, and as people age, people become more vulnerable. They need support. They need to be DBS checked and adequately trained in order to support those vulnerable adults. We've got a lot of people in our church with disabilities of varying degrees and varying natures. People need support to deal appropriately with that. We spoke about sometimes there being a lack of support from leaders that don't really understand or know how to manage the risks that a particular offender may pose. If somebody's got a history of domestic abuse or emotional bullying or sexual abuse, how do leaders manage them if that person's coming to church regularly? How do they keep their congregation safe and still extend fellowship and inclusion and welcoming to somebody who's an offender and abuser? How do they manage that? It's a very, very difficult intersection. It really is, between managing the needs of victims and the managing of offenders when they might be with to each other. How are the church doing that? How are they doing it appropriately and safely? Missionaries. Desperate need for missionaries to be DBS checked before they enter this country and before they leave this country. Some faith communities are really clear that they won't allow anyone to go and serve in a foreign country unless they've done all the background checks on them. And they won't allow people to come into this country and serve unless they've done whatever checks they can do from the nation of origin with them. So some faith communities are kind of a bit further ahead of the game in this one than we are. Risk assessment.
Can I just jump in just
yeah, please.
To mention about you mentioned missionaries there. This I'm hoping is going to give our audience a flavour of, often we equate safeguarding with child protection. This is not just about child protection. Right. This is also, while it has a UK focus, it also has a global focus. We are a church that's joined up across the world, particularly when we think about missionary service, which is something that we've been working a lot on. Now, when we're thinking about adult safeguarding, missionaries, that's its own category, which carries its own concern, both for the individuals who are serving and for the individuals in communities where they go to send, and for family members who may also be affected. So that's its own concern. But in addition to thinking about sort of adults and other groups, any vulnerable group we are covering through these discussions. So we're thinking about the LGBTQ community. We're thinking about the elderly. We're thinking about vulnerable adults with learning disabilities and special needs. Sarah, please continue.
I think that's really important to mention. We're also thinking about the welfare of missionaries and the safety of missionaries as well, because that's another really important area to consider. We need to make sure that church understand what risk assessment means, that individual bishops are supported and understand what it is that they need to be doing. And we also, one of the other areas of concern we've got is most people in the UK will be very familiar with the fact that there have been public apologies made by the Church of England, the Roman Catholic Church, and other faith communities around abuse. Leaders of those organisations have resigned, they've apologised, they've made it very, very clear that victims have been let down and should have been kept safer within their faith community, and they weren't. We actually think that the LDS Church should consider making an apology. Well, they shouldn't consider it, they should do it, but they should start with considering making an apology to all the victims of abuse to say, we're sorry. They don't need to go into just, we're sorry. This should never have happened to you. And if you have been hurt and let down by any of our failures, we are sorry. And we think that that would show some accountability and some acceptance of an understanding that things have not been right. So those are some of the areas of concern that we talk about in this booklet. We talk about why they're a problem, what the issues are with them, and then we make some recommendations as to how we can move forward.
So one of the fantastic comments that was just pointed out here, and I think is highlighting exactly why this is significant.
People are lovely to us.
Oh, our comments,
people are lovely.
People, audience, just you really are. Yeah, but it's pointed out, the wonderful Kaz pointed out that there are LDS members of Parliament and members of the Scottish Parliament, as was also pointed out. Now, that is really important because not everybody knows about Mormonism. And if in a parliamentary group that is talking about abuse in religious settings, church members, we're encouraged to be civically involved. The encouragement is sort of built into our system that those MPs will have a particular interest in what's being said about religious groups. Now, the church itself, as a broadly as an organisation, doesn't want religious oversight for faith communities, which I don't know if I agree or not. I don't especially care. But when it comes to safeguarding, we are asking for it. We're telling you that marking your own homework is not working and that you need to do that. There has to be some form of oversight. So we're specifically asking for that. But if a safeguarding inquiry is asking members of Parliament or politicians who do have an LDS background, we know how members see safeguarding who haven't necessarily understood the serious problems that they have with it. This is why what we've done, we've also shared a bit about the church's safeguarding journey. And there are good things. So we point out that the church is beginning to move away from harmful teachings that hold women and girls responsible for the sexual urges of men and boys. We mention that, but we point out that it is still significant because many of the leaders still sort of tend to hold those views, and the fact that they were at one time taught is kind of baked into the religion. So the reason why you need to get it to your politicians is so that we can make sure that people who are getting the messages to the politicians aren't invested in telling everyone why it's all okay. Now, what I'm thinking about in my area, my local politician, my local Westminster politician. We have a Scottish Parliament, we have a Westminster Parliament, so I get double the representation. I want to speak to both of them. My local councillor, so a very much smaller local level. My local Citizens Advice Bureau, my local Women's Aid, my local police organisation. Any organisation that could possibly be working to support someone who would require support, social workers, someone where there's a vulnerability and they may have an LDS context, that they've got this resource that they can have a look at that will help them better understand how the church, any charities. It's about helping people understand how the church makes its decisions. So we do see good things about the church.
Just to say, there is a little bit in there about there is a sort of bit in there about the church and the background of the church, so that people that know nothing will have some idea of what the church is all about. So we have put a sort of page about the church in there.
Now, Sarah points out that in her capacity, in her professional background, when she would receive training and get documents like this sent to her, she would really just sort of flick through and go to the main thing at the back, which is the key recommendations. Now, we've got that in an easy read form and we've got it spelled out, so it's doubled down. The recommendations that we have, and we've sort of blocked it into 6 key recommendations. We call, the most important one is we call for government oversight of safeguarding in all religious organisations. This is not just about Mormonism. there are problems throughout the religious community. And we're going to be following up about that on a panel with the rest of the Brit Avengers gang just shortly. You'll need to know what is happening in the United Kingdom because it is highly significant. Now, Sarah, is there anything else you want to say, first of all, about the content of our booklet?
I don't think so. We just need to have a think about what else people might need to know. We're happy to answer questions.
You want to read it, people?
If you get a booklet, you've read it. If you've got questions, you know how to get those questions to us by now. Drop us an email, drop us a Facebook message. We're happy to answer those questions. If you're meeting up with a member of Parliament, a local charity, if you're meeting up with anybody that you know that's involved in safeguarding, your bishop, your state president, and you want to run through the conversation, how that might go with us beforehand, let us know. We're here to support you every step of the way. We need your help because we can't do this bit alone. We really need your help, but we will support you to know how to go about doing it. Use your Book of Mormon training, as Jane said. You've all been trained to be missionaries, and a missionary training never goes. You've all been trained to place Book of Mormons, to be missionaries. Write your testimony of safeguarding and why it's so important in the church and why you want to see it happen, and give it to the right people.
Now, we also have some acknowledgements at the back of the book, and I'm going to give a quick shout out because they're people that I want you guys to remember their names. So we want to thank the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse. We want to know the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry, its work. We look forward to receiving its recommendations, but we also would like you to note that this has been logged and noted. The recommendations have been noted by the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry. We've used a lot in compiling this. We've used a lot of the resources that are available on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints own website. Now, what we haven't put in is a really bloody good church resource. The church is sleeping on it. We printed this out and we're skint. You have a lot of money, so we're asking church, can you please go print out? It's churchofjesuschrist.org.uk/UK.
Yeah,
right, I don't know, check it yourself. / safeguarding PDF. We will put this in the show notes. Now, that is a wonderful extensive PDF that has links to, it suggests, the NSPCC and different statutory organisations. There's some really good information in that booklet. Can you please, I know you've emailed this to your church leaders, to your bishops, to your state presidents, lawyers, leaders, I'm talking to you. Can you please print this out for them? It will not cost you that much money. You'll do it for a lot cheaper than we have. Make sure they have physical copies to hand, not just those guys. Your primary presidents, your Relief Society presidents, get a bundle at the door. Show that you take safeguarding seriously, please, because this is what it's come to. We're having to do this. If you printed out something like that, we could retire. There would be a culture of safeguarding starting in the church that makes us have to worry a lot less. I also want to just acknowledge, we give a shout out to NWG Network, who are just our rock. We appreciate you very much. Centre for Expertise in Child Sexual Abuse, 318, the NSPCC, the Gang at Community of Christ, Floodlit, Protect Every Child, Sam Young and Katie Moore, and we also shout out to our unpaid interns who have been invaluable in the creation of this book. Peter Bleakley, Douglas Stilgo, Lynn Bleakley, Ruth Heath, and the whole of the rest of the gang. Peter has spent sleepless nights helping us with the graphic design here. So, and most importantly, we want to thank the survivors who helped us get to this point in our work, and thank you for honouring us with your stories. So I'm going to double down again. We need you to get this to your politicians. We need you to get this to charities, to decision makers, to people who are having those conversations. If you want a physical copy of this book, now, if you're in the US and you want, this is a hot off the presses here. If you are in the USA and you want to have physical copies of this book, I am going to ask that you all figure that out. I will send you the printer's manuscript for this. I feel like Joseph Smith. But I will give you it for free. Okay. I will send you the printer's copy.
If we're skinned, can we sell the printer's manuscript at some point in the future?
In the future, we can maybe have, I don't know, the church autograph it or something.
We auction it or something. Yeah, we auction it or something.
The day the church adopts all of these policies and autographs it, then we will put that into, I don't know, wherever, and you can have it. We're generous. Anyway, if you want the PDF copy because you can get it printed, this is an A4. It looks fantastic. It does really give the edge, so we will send that to you free of charge. Go print it, go get it to people. If you want the PDF version to take a look at, we'll send you that free of charge. If you're in the UK and you want a physical copy of it, we will send you it free of charge. We are asking if you can afford to send us a little bit of money to get it to where you want it to go, then please do that. Our donor box links is in the show notes, and we also have a PayPal and things like that. So messages and we can have a chat. If you want just to get a reaction from the church and you want it to go to as many bishops and stake presidents as possible, then let us know. If you send us a couple of quid, we'll send them to whoever you want us to send them to.
And the more bishops,
with your very best regards.
Yeah. And the more bishops and stake presidents we get talking about this and talking about the recommendations and the areas of concern and listening to what victims have had to say, the more leadership in the church that we get talking about this, the better it will be to send the message to the church decision makers that they actually really need to move forward and do a little bit. They've done great, they're doing good, and we're not going to knock it, because fantastic that they're doing what they're doing, but we just need to move forward a bit now.
Right, it's time for action. So some media outlets already have this. Lots of your favourite podcasters already have this. Feel free to pass it on to whoever you would like to pass it on to. But do remember, if you can get a physical copy, it is much, much more powerful. Who else do we need to have it? Yeah, it's already, pre-release copies have gone out. So we're good from now to send it wherever it needs to go. Sarah, were you gonna jump in with something?
No. I was actually just going to say, and then I think I might regret it, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you let us know what part of the UK you're in when you're wanting a physical copy of it, and if you're not too far away from me, I might even pay you a visit and come and deliver it. But it depends where you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And nice. It's the story of our podcast. We say a thing and then wonder if we might regret it later.
Yeah, but sometimes a road trip is cool. We like going on the odd occasional road trip, so that might be quite cool.
Oh yeah, well actually, yeah. We should, we should tour the British. We should come to invite us to your ward and we'll consider showing up, and we'll bring some copies of this little guy. So yeah, we could really be doing with some funds for printing. 100% of whatever you've been sending us is going on printing. It's expensive, but it is so worth it. This little guy, when you've got it in your hand, looks amazing. In the updated copy, now just letting you guys know, in the second print run, we do have two things. I've already mentioned. We are going to give the church website, that PDF on safeguarding, we're going to link to that. We do link to that in the compliment slips we send to bishops and stake presidents. We do have a note of it on there, but we're going to get it in the main document. But the other thing is, we're going to blame Peter Bleakley for this, because he was our typo person. Well, yeah.
Can I just say,
Sarah,
Peter,
do you want to explain?
Well, Peter Bleakley, you told us this was perfect and good to go. But I'm going to say now that on the page where we have the survey, we talk the right number of 140 reports and 40 in-depth case studies that we did. That is right. That is accurate. That was the number of people we spoke to.
To clarify, we looked at 140 cases. We looked at 140 cases
great
and
detail.
we in depth looked at 40. Okay.
Now, in this paragraph down here, it says we looked at 120. Now, that's wrong. It should say 140. So we apologise for that typo. We think that is the only typo.
We are so sorry, Peter was wrong.
We are sorry. Oh, we love Peter because Peter did work his socks off, and he is an unpaid intern that does hours for us. So we do love him very much. The other thing I want to just point out, we have made it abundantly clear, because the church get most upset with us if we don't do this, and anything that we produce or any conference we speak at or PowerPoint presentations or anything we deliver, the church have asked us to make it very clear that we don't speak on behalf of the church. Now, I don't actually personally understand that anyone could ever think we speak on behalf of the church, because I'd be quite shocked if they thought we did. But we have said very clearly, they
did ask us to do that.
They have asked us to do that. Yeah. So I'm just pointing out we've done it because we've been asked to. 21st Century Saints is an independent organisation which does not speak on behalf of or represent the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I know I have said before, I don't want to be seen to represent the church in safeguarding either, because it would be a bit embarrassing, wouldn't it, really, to be honest? So I don't really want to be seen to represent the church. But
it's just a journey. It's a journey.
This is an independent survey, an independent analysis of the problems, and an independent review of the recommendations that we believe would move the church forward. That's what this is. It's not the church, it's us.
Okay. So if you've been prayerfully considering who has not yet read this book, who's not in our midst today, can you think about who that person is and make sure that they get a copy? And if we need to do that for you, just send us a message. Primary presidents, absolutely
need to see this, because they're responsible for our children. They need to see this.
Right. Anyone who's a stakeholder in keeping people safe and adults safe. One of the things we do in here, we because this is designed for people who don't have an LDS background, we mention tithing. We mention church members are expected to pay tithing. Because it's significant if you're working with an elderly person who's vulnerable, that's part of the factors of their life, what those conversations are. So yeah, we want to make sure that people who are organizing, visiting, teaching, and or ministering, whatever that looks like now, we want to make sure they're all aware. So we will get it as long as print resources state. We will post it to the people. If you need multiple copies because you've got many people you want to give it to, oh my goodness, we are there for it. Please consider making a donation. We're going to be talking about this a lot in the future, so you need your own copy so you can follow along.
You do.
Come safeguard with us. 2005. Come safeguard with.
Come safeguard with us.
Yeah, see what we did there.
And use, as Jeff said earlier, use the training that the church has given you, and placing Book of Mormons and having difficult conversation and asking people what their concerns are and how you can resolve them. Use that training that the church gave you to be part of making safeguarding happen. You can be part of it by doing this.
Yeah. And actually really important too, if you don't have the contact details of the person that you want it to go to, we can usually get that. So so addresses are all publicly listed. It would be lovely if over the next few months this did end up in the hands of every leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
If that was to happen,
ended up posting it would.
It'd be wood.
It would, but we need you to tell us.
You see, if all of a sudden every chapel suddenly had this turn up in their doorstep, it would be fantastic. Right. We would love that to happen.
Right.
So, with the
so we need you guys to be stakeholders in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So so with your help, we will get it where it needs to be. I would like your thinking to come out of the church and into the realm of decision makers. Those decision makers naturally, obviously, are bishops and stake presidents in almost every case, but the people who can put pressure on anyone, politicians, police officers, any of those organisations. We want you to be thinking that way. So if you can make a donation, please do. Now, you will be seeing us again just in the not too distant. We're having a Brit Vengers panel where, oh my goodness, there's so much to talk about.
The Brit Venture
We're also going to be back here. Sarah.
The Brit Venture panel is going to be over on Nemo's channel, so look out for that. It's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about a lot of safeguarding stuff that's going on over on Nemo's channel. There's a Brit Venture panel.
Nemo gets very lonely if we don't give him attention every now and again and come on as a panel for intervention. So we're going to do it over in his channel because, you know, neediness. Bless his little sweetheart. So we'll be doing that next Wednesday. We will be back here with the incredible Queen of Mormonism, Laurie Lee Hall, talking about her book, Dictates of Conscience.
And for those that don't know, Laurie Lee Hall is phenomenal. I love her. Spent a fabulous weekend with her in Brighton a couple of years ago. She's amazing woman. Laurie Lee Hall was the chief architect of temples for the LDS Church, was the state president. Trans is living her life out according to the dictates of her conscience and according to the way that she knows is making her happy, and it's been confirmed to her that this is how she needs to live her life out, and has a fantastic story to tell about the journey that she has been on from being state president, the chief architect of temples in the LDS Church, designed many of the temples that we see around the world that people use all the time, and the journey that she has been on to now being settled in a relationship with another awesome woman, fabulous woman. She's a partner. Say, wonderful story. You'll love listening to that next week.
Yeah, we're fangirling here already, and this is going to be us for the next week. So if you need to reach out to us, you can do through our social media channels. Please consider making a donation. When we send you a PDF, if you want it, you can have it for free. Just make sure that you're passing it on. If you need a physical copy, send us a message. We're asking that if you aren't in the UK and you want to sponsor a bishop, a state president, a politician, an area, then you can do so through our donor box link and just let us know, and we will make sure it gets to where it needs to go. If you need it to be anonymous, we can do it that way. We keep everything anonymous in this world.
If it was to go to every single bishop in the UK, we'd need about sort of 340 of them, roughly, wouldn't we? If it was to go to every single bishop,
right?
Maybe about 50 state presidents or something like that. If it was to go to them, just a ballpark.
So it's a big ask. Right. But if we, you know, for example, if you wanted every leader in you know, a smaller geographical area, you know, for example, Sarah's ward, you know, we can facilitate that. All of the information for where we would send it is online. If you want politicians in that area, now remember, if you want a politician to see this, you have to be in their area. So yes, this is going to the safeguarding lead. It's going to Jess Phillips. It's going to other decision makers who can have a look at it. But we need you in your area to forward it. And if you need that conversation with your elected representative to be confidential, they will make sure that it is.
When my member of parliament wrote to the bishop of my church that ended up in the letters of lawyers, they simply said a constituent has approached me. They didn't give my name, and the church knew who I was, so it's kind of no big secret, because they contacted me straight away and said, I've just had this letter. I think, how do you know it's from me? But
anyway, they'll just assume it's from us.
Yeah. And I think if every bishop in the UK and state president in the UK suddenly ended up with this, they probably would blame us for it and think it was something to do with us.
So lots of emails have already gone out containing the PDF. We've got a pile that are going in the post box tomorrow. So we've already got a mail shot ready. We scrimped and scraped to afford to do this first run. We are looking forward to being able to afford the second print run. We need those addresses where they need to go to. If you want your copy, remember this isn't for you. You can read it online. You can read the PDF version. This is so you can get it into the hands of people who can. If you need any support in having those conversations, we are here to help with that. We're at your disposal, guys. If there's anything that we can do to support you get this where it needs to go, give us a shout. We may be UK focused, but this will help you in the US too. And if you need to adapt this document for your particular area where you live, we can help you with that too. So give us a shout if you want to make any tweaks.
Do you know some of the things that we've discussed in here, which is the problems of identifying and managing risks, the helpline, church's safeguarding journey, the areas of concern, recommendations are going to be the same wherever you live in the church. They're going to be the same. New Zealand, they're going to be the same all over the place.
And we can put you in touch with people who understand the legislation there. Yes. So if you please. Guys, it's January. If you can't afford to drop us a few pounds or dollars, we totally understand. This is a really tough month.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate your support, and if that means that you forward some emails, then awesome. Thank you for doing 100%.
That. And even if you
when you can, this is.
Even just having the conversation. I know we've got a begging bowl out tonight. We know not everyone can afford to give, and if you can't afford to give, that's absolutely super cool. Don't feel any pressure, but just have a conversation. Conversations, because the only thing necessary for abuse to flourish is secrecy. So have a conversation and start blowing it out the water.
And if you need a copy, we'll give you it for free. We want this. If you're passionate and you want to get this into the hands of decision maker, so this costs you no money. We're asking people who can afford to send a few quid our way if you would do that, and sponsor some people, sponsor it to get into people's hands. And it's not a one and done. This is going to be rolling out constantly. So if we are getting some sent out in particular areas to particular individuals, we're still going to be asking for this in February. We're still going to be asking for this months down the line. This is a journey. This is going on a little travel tour to all sorts of people. If there's anyone we've missed on the list, and we are aware also media outlets, we know if you want to forward it to them, go ahead. But we've been having conversations there too. Okay, any questions for us? Give us a shout. We really appreciate your support. What else? Check out Beyond Belief's new channel. Go vote for your favourite Brit Avenger and the Brodie Awards. What else have we got, Sarah? If you can afford to bung us
Brodie
Awards, please do.
Get voting in the Brodie Awards.
We will. Absolutely. We will see you all next week. Catch you later, and we bless your journey.